What's going on, Reject Nation? We are at Cinemark, as expected. Don't go to any other theaters anymore.
Ever.
And we just saw Dune.
Part 1.
Which I know, yes, it's coming out on HBO Max, but my God, I was watching this and 5 minutes in, I was thinking to myself, what kind of a fool would I be if I watched this for the first time at home like a damn idiot? So go to Cinemark and watch it here.
That is the kind of branding they're looking for. Aggressive. Aggressive.
They're going to ask to use that.
They're like, hey, can we make that a commercial?
Branded
We'd like to
marketing.
put this on the TV.
Especially for your first time. You gotta watch it in the cinema. And I guarantee if you watch it at home, you're gonna be like, I should have watched it in the theaters. Hey guys, bummed to say this, spent hours trying to fix it. We had some major audio issues all around, and backup audio was not that great either. It bums me out so much because, you know, as much as I know that this will not be one of our most viewed videos ever, it's one of my favorite discussions coming right out of a movie we've ever done and put on camera. I think if you just like, you know, sit back and settle in with the audio, it'll be fine. But I do apologize for it not being up to par as it has been with the previous Just Watch videos. You'll see what I mean. Coy and John sound better than me. If you guys don't know anything about Dune, I actually forgot everything I ever learned about Dune prior to watching this movie. I don't know how to possibly just summarize the plot of this really quick. I think the most efficient way to give you an idea of the world you're diving into is directed by Denis Villeneuve, so you know the kind of like tone and styles that he tends to go for. The best way I can describe it is it's kind of like Star Wars meets Game of Thrones. That was the most efficient way of like, yeah, that's how I would sort of see this movie. Not really like space travel, but planet travel. What it mainly deals with is, you know, the power of spice. I'm trying to make it as simplistic for you guys as possible.
It's also a drug that heightens your senses and spirituality, but it's also the key to space travel.
Yeah, the thing that Coy would know a lot about. And it's a really heady sci-fi movie. It's very thought-provoking. Wow. It's long. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. I was engrossed in it from beginning to end. I love like the haunting, menacing tone it has. It's very deliberate, ethereal, and just the tone it just strikes you with from beginning to end, and complemented by Hans Zimmer's score, is just so beautiful. I was like wrapped up in a tortilla of sci-fi goodies. Like that's the best way I can explain it, with just amazing performances and probably the most beautiful looking film I've seen all year. That's right, I said most beautiful film I've seen all year. Think of another film that I might be comparing it to. But that's just my quick thoughts on it before we go a little further. John, please, what did you think?
Yeah, I was quite enthralled by this. I mean, Denis Villeneuve's direction, I feel like, kind of is the overarching star of the whole thing, because Dune is billed as this really hard to adapt piece. And I am not an expert. We actually watched it with somebody who is a pretty big Dune expert, but having gotten acquainted with it, I mean, I can see why this is always billed that way, and I think he did a stellar job in realizing the world, the feeling. It's a true epic with sweeping sets and costumes and this aura of, you know, a larger than life interworking network of religions and political aspirations and all these different things. I thought, yeah, it was really beautifully realized. The cast for the most part is great. As the script adaptation side of things goes, that was maybe the most lacking part for me, because a lot of stuff is pretty streamlined and truncated and excised and whatnot to make it work as a story that fits into a movie. But that being said, I thought this was a really compelling first part to what I hope becomes a complete film adaptation.
That's fair. I mean, for me, I really felt like it's one of those rare films where like it feels like the most expensive passion project I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
It really does, yeah.
But Coy, what did you think?
So when I look at sci-fi films, Denis stands out a lot. Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite modern sci-fi films, but I think it's really important when you have genres like this, where you've got The Town is a cop drama like Heat's a cop drama, but you've also got like your Marky Mark, Denzel, Fair, that's going to be a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more mainstream. Not to completely make little of those things, but they're different feels. And to me, Star Wars is going to be your more streamlined mainstream sci-fi, whereas this is going to be your Godfather versus Star Wars' Scarface. Like, you've got different paces, different feels, different atmospheres, different ambiances. This isn't something you throw on casually. This is something you immerse yourself in, you wrap yourself up in. This is something that is an event, it is an experience, which is why I watched it at Cinemark. The whole thing feels like you need to be immersed in it completely. I loved all of that. I loved the politics of it. I loved the tribalism of it. I loved the colonization of it. I loved the commentary on our world. As an aggressive hallucinogen advocate, I love that we're discussing it as an enhancement instead of a hindrance. If you look at the way human beings have evolved, we've actually advanced our culture quite a bit through hallucinogens. So looking at the larger scale of perhaps using that for things that expand our world to the cosmos, it's a really cool adjustment to look at a movie like this that's adjusting sci-fi to have that affect our reality. So it meant a lot to me that the spice was this, having known very little about it, and I think the whole thing felt like what I want sci-fi to always feel like, and the cast is one of the sexiest casts ever assembled. So it's very beautiful to look at aesthetically, and as a human being, appreciating human beings.
We took shrooms before watching this.
Can you tell?
Oh wow, the screen was just popping.
I feel it.
They were just popping at us the whole time.
You guys taste that purple?
Where do we get this spice?
I can travel the cosmos.
One thing I'll say too that I'm not surprised by it, just because Denis Villeneuve is like one of my favorite directors. It's that how physical everything felt. It's cool to watch a sci-fi movie where everything just feels very tangible. Like, yes, are there some sci-fi sets like CGI wise? Totally. But a lot of times I couldn't even tell like exactly what was CGI and what was practical. Other times it's more apparent. But especially when you're in like, you know, dealing with the sand and watching the actors having to go through this, the whole environment, the sweat, the scuzziness, it made it that much more beautiful, the ickier it actually got, I would say.
Yeah.
And there's some pretty cool action in here. It's not like action-packed, but when there is action, it is gripping. There's some real tense moments for sure throughout. And with the cast too, I think I feel like everyone was pretty much perfectly cast. I know some people here have a slightly different opinion about it.
I think he was perfectly cast.
It's okay.
I do think he was perfectly cast.
Stand your ground.
Is there someone in particular?
In reading the book lately, I was sitting there going, Chalamet is the perfect casting for this.
The guy who read the book.
This guy.
The guy.
Oh, he's got the pages,
I read
the
half
flipping.
the book, and now I'm here to make the
this is
comparison.
intellectual.
I'm smart.
He reads.
Nerd.
We're at a theater. We're at a theater, John.
It's a good book.
Not at a library. We're at a
I
theater.
want to watch things with sound.
This was a silent film. Best silent film of the year.
The score we should talk about while we're talking about sound.
Hans Zimmer did not just do that one thing he does now.
There was more. There were many sounds.
Yeah.
No, the sound design was so immersive. Like we were talking about the visuals being almost like Jurassic Park, which is the highest praise I can give a movie, where you blend the CGI with the practical.
Why not?
And now this in sci-fi scale, but also the sound design is something similar where it immerses you into it in a very aggressive way.
To quote everyone's review of Eternals, it's a very tense movie.
It's very dense.
but it's weirdly not as slow as I expected it to be.
I will admit the first 20 minutes I was worried because I am an American ADD riddled like what cinema. But once I was in, I was so in, and I think it really took a couple minutes for me to adjust my inner clock. But once I was there, I think it's such an immersive film.
I think the cast is just so great in here. I mean, for me, I'm wondering like who my favorite performer is. Oh God, it's so hard.
Rebecca
Let's
Ferguson.
just go
Might be Rebecca Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson, hottest mom in the world.
Yeah.
And you could tell at times Timothée Chalamet was even like, man, why she gotta be my mom? I think that was a line he said at one point when he was in the voice to
Subtext.
talk to her.
Yep.
Explicit subtext.
I love the always seen stealing David Dastmalchian. The dude's got so much presence that when he arrives and you're always like, this guy, and you want to know more about him.
I thought Josh Brolin, who was very limited in the trailers, he does so much more here. He's such like an empowering force in this movie. You feel the energy just come. Like I think it was one of his scenes early on in the movie where I'm like, oh, I'm really emotionally pulled in now because of a very specific speech he gives early on, and that's when I was like hooked. And Josh Brolin was like, he's a powerhouse in this movie.
And his relationship with Oscar Isaac was great. I bought
Isaac is
everything
Oscar
with
Isaac,
Oscar
man.
Isaac.
Yeah.
But I bought their connection. And you need to, for each of their characters to work, you need to believe in this hierarchy, you need to believe in the structure, you need to believe in this world of this I don't know, this political intrigue, and if you don't, you're out. So you need Brolin and Oscar to really have this immediate connection that works in this film.
Was that one guy Javier Bardem, or was I only thinking
Yes.
it was Javier? It was Javier Bardem.
Yes, that was it.
Because he was great. Because I didn't recognize the guy when he showed
Yeah.
up, and then he started speaking. I'm like, that dude sounds like Javier Bardem.
Is it Jeffrey Dean Morgan or Javier
like a
Bardem?
quarter.
I never know.
I recognized David Dastmalchian the second I saw him.
yeah.
But Javier Bardem, I was like, is that?
And Zendaya's like ethereal quality was, I mean,
Yes.
she's so enigmatic, and everything about her, you want to be pulled into that story, and you're so in a dream state with her, and you want to know more about her, and it's perfectly cast because I mean, Zendaya, like, you tell me more about you.
And that's well handled because, I mean, a lot of her actual action takes place later, and I thought they made her presence still feel very plugged into this movie, even though a lot of what she has to really do isn't quite arrived yet in the story.
Yeah, I mean, by the time that, you know, like, where the inevitable encounter with Timothée Chalamet and her happens, it feels a little rewarding and cathartic.
Yeah. There's
Spoilers.
There's an element.
They meet.
Stellan Skarsgård?
Stellan Skarsgård.
Stellan Skarsgård. Oh my God, how do we not talk about the amazing makeup in this movie? The makeup was phenomenal here. That's another part that made it feel so lived. You know, I know that Dune is a big part of what inspired Star Wars, and it is kind of neat to watch it in sort of that meta lens.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, you can see the Star Wars shades here. You know?
And it doesn't ever seem like it's borrowing from what it begat in helping Star Wars to become what it was. Like,
Yeah.
it really does feel like, no, it's its own thing, but
Yeah.
you can really see the lineage, yeah.
I thought it was great. I think it's one of the best movies I've seen all year, undoubtedly. Out of 5, Coy, what would you give it?
I give this a solid 4 out of 5. I've only given 16 5 out of 5s my entire life, so to put to scale, 4 is very high. The stoned ape theory meets politics meets space opera, and it's the scope I wanted Dune to be, and I feel like because of this movie, I understand the Dune culture in a way that I didn't really grasp before being outside of it.
What would you rate me?
10 out of 5.
That's what I'm talking about, bitches.
Easy.
Look out now.
Yes. Got the
Good rating. Yeah, I'd give it probably a 4, probably around a 4.
Wow, I'm
Maybe a
higher than
3.75.
everyone today.
Ooh, what do you got?
I'm a 4.25
This guy.
that
this
extra
guy.
quarter.
because of Timothée Chalamet, who we did not touch on to protect someone from the comment boxes.
It's only if it's fine, guys. I thought he was fine. He's good. He was just the only character who didn't have as much presence to me as literally any other character.
Of course.
But he's the special, so it makes sense.
Don't you feel like in movies like with this ensemble, it's usually the lead who surprisingly is the least interesting one?
Absolutely. Which
Well,
is
you know,
why I'm not
it's
mad.
like a phenomenon where you get to know the lead so much more, you expect inherently more out of them. Like your best friend, you always assume more out of. So is it the lead being so much screen time that you're like, why? Whereas you got someone, they have to do so much more work. If they've got 5 pages, they need to deliver 100 pages worth of impact. So maybe something that has 100 pages, you just don't feel that impact because it's so much more ongoing. It's like a spice. You get right away. You remember that instead of like a nice rolling buffalo.
I don't know. I found myself like there are moments in the finale, what the circumstances that are dealt his way, where I do find myself like rooting for him quite a bit, and I
Agreed.
really felt like a lot of that fell on Timothée Chalamet to get me to care about him. And a character in his position who has these special gifts, who is like chosen one sort of, that makes, and it's really hard for me to actually root for people like that. And for here, I was like, yo, I'm really hoping this guy nails all those qualities down they're supposed to nail.
Yeah, I
Because-
usually struggle with the chosen one aspect.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being here, Cinemark. Thank you guys so much for hooking this up. Wow, what that this is like this is cinema.
Cinemark. This is cinema.
Cinemark.
You can't spell Cinemark without cinema.
I'm gonna go get some spice deodorant and hallucinate.